Last time on the Dive Shop, Gary reviewed his new regulator set and configuration. We took a look at the highlights from our 2021 conservation program. Fred and Jimmy completed perfect buoyancy training, and we went diving at Shark Canyon. This week on the Dive Shop, Jonny and the team talk wreck and deep diving specialties. Gary provides some tips on improving air consumption. We say goodbye to Mark, again, and we say hello to Emily, our latest Divemaster trainee. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
Over the last week or so, we've had a couple of different speciality courses going on here with a few of the divers we've got at the minute. Fred and Emily have been having a look at the deep speciality and the wreck speciality this week. So I just want to talk today about why we do specialities and these two specialities in particular in a little bit more depth. So all the training agencies offer these specialities, and the idea of them is to give divers a safe environment where they can practice with new equipment and under new conditions. So the two courses we've been having a look at have obviously been the deep course and the wreck course. Starting with the wreck course, what we have a look at here first of all is the actual site we're going to be diving on. So in this case we were diving on the Boris, a wreck we've got locally to here, and we started off by descending down onto the Boris for a dive just on the external parts of the wreck and making a map of the site and giving us a better idea of how to approach it when we actually went into the penetration and the planning. Next step, we're practicing our lining in and lining out techniques up on dry land in the garden, just so that when the divers got down there they actually had an idea of what they were going to be doing once they got onto the wreck. The technique we use for lining in and out is we tie off from the outside of the wreck, we tie off our line directly inside the wreck just after we penetrate, and then every metre or so wrap the line around something structural in the wreck and work our way round our penetration up to the point where we want to finish, and then work that line all the way back round to the same exit point that we used for an entry. Now we knew these techniques that we'd learned up on dry land, we descended down onto the wreck and just on the deck, out in the open still, no penetration involved. We just practiced lining our way around the deck and planning out a route and then lining our way back in the buddy teams. This meant when we went on to our next dive, where the divers were actually planning the dive themselves, and from the map that they'd drawn in the first step of the process, were planning where they were going to penetrate, how deep in they were going to go, and how to get themselves back out again. So Fred and Emily got to go down and have a bit of a practice lining themselves in and lining themselves back out of the Boris. All this meaning that when they go on to start penetrating and diving on wrecks outside of the scope of the course, they know how to do it safely and managing the risks as best they can. Moving on to the deep speciality. This course is obviously about diving at greater depths, which comes with another set of risks included into it. So obviously at 40 metres you're a lot further from the surface than you are at say 25 metres. So you've got to have those extra safety precautions in place. So for us we have a look at using bailout options, so we get our divers to carry a pony bottle, just so they know they've got enough air to get them to the surface even if their equipment does have a failure. Next risk management we have a look at on the deep speciality course is the effects of nitrogen narcosis at greater depths. So obviously when you get down to those deeper depths, the effects are going to be much greater than say at 25 metres where you'd have been diving comfortably before. What we do is we do a narc test. So on the surface, we get our divers to go through a slate of numbers and time how long it takes them to do that, going through 1 to 20 in a random order. And then we do it again when we get down to 40 meters, so that they can see the difference in times and get a real basis on the effects of nitrogen narcosis on themselves as a diver. So the final thing we have a look at on the deep courses are looking at our air consumption rates, so our SAC rates. This is really important because it means that we can plan out our dive so that we know what depth we're going down to, how much air we're actually going to use before we even get in the water, so that we can always make sure we've got enough air to take us all the way around our dive and then a comfortable reserve just in case anything goes awry. So the main things Fred and Emily really learned from these courses was how to manage their risks more effectively when diving in these new unknown conditions. More importantly, they both had lots of fun diving deeper and with more penetration.
So this week I produced a video looking at how to improve people's buoyancy control. No, I didn't. So this week, on our YouTube channel this week, we put out a video helping people improve their air consumption, particularly aiming at newer divers. And I wanted to offer them 5 tips on how we could start the process off and move towards improving your airway consumption over the next 5 dives. Now these are very, very simple tips, and I'd advise you going and checking out the video up here on the link there or in the description below. But the 5 tips basically come down to some visualization, relaxation techniques that you can use before you get into the water, calming yourself down so that the moment that you hit the water, you're calm, you're serene, and your breathing is fairly normal. There's also weighting and being appropriately weighted, both for your ascent and for your diving. There's efficient fin kicks and making sure that as you're moving through the water, you're nicely trimmed and have a nice smooth movement. But there's also, what was the last one? And having the right equipment to help you move through the water and help you be comfortable. And it all comes with familiarity. Now, one of the things that I always like to say to newer divers is, don't worry. As you start diving, you are task loading. As you start diving, you are unfamiliar with the equipment and unfamiliar with the environment, and your air consumption will be heavier. And over a short period of time, it will normalize and you will get better. Watch the video just up here. 5 top tips on how you can improve your air consumption in the next 5 dives.
Before we call any names, I'm just gonna say he's gonna identify himself when he watched this video. Whenever you're watching it, I wanna say, miss you, bro.
Yeah,
Miss you.
we all miss you.
So how do we start it?
We gathered here today to talk about character, unique,
Loud, one of a kind,
very unique features. Short legs, bright hair like the sun.
bright personality,
Yeah,
jokes of a comedian,
yeah.
dives like a kid.
Well, Mark joined us in 2020. He was one of the 2 only volunteers that came that year. Quite a peculiar volunteer since he's 54,
54.
55, 56. I have no idea. He's mid-50s. And he immediately switched on and yeah, he fit in with the team and everybody here, and we had a blast with him. And then he decided to come back now during COVID times because he was just like very bored in the UK. And he came to join, not join, but sort of doing a kind of internship while we had the volunteer program going on here with loads of 18 and 19-year-olds.
I know some of you guys are like, he's 54, 18, 19 years old. There's no way.
That's a huge gap.
Yeah.
Right?
All I'm gonna say is, even guests we had would say the same thing about Mark. He's just amazing to be around.
Yeah.
Just the laugh and the way he'll just raise the environment every time he's around. The space would just be different. I don't think this year volunteer program would have
Being the same.
felt you know, the same without Mark, especially since he was here last year, and it was, even though it was just 2 volunteers, it was still like one of the best programs we ever had, which was just amazing.
So yeah, Mark came, spent almost 4 months with us, and then he decided to go, the bastard, to the Bahamas earlier before going back to the UK. But we, of course, will expect him to come back sooner than later, maybe, I don't know, less than a year time. Please, come back.
Come back. The Mark, we need you.
Yeah, so here are some of the highlights of Mark's visit this year.
Yeah. Just to highlight some of Mark's features for you guys, I would say, you know, he was just one of those guys you could dive with, have a laugh with, have a drink with, and then at the same time, he's not afraid to put on that serious face. He's always somebody you could talk to about with shit, you know, because he's older, of course, you know, so he still has that wise wisdom of older person, you know, kind of 6 years older than you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah, he's always there for you.
He's always there.
Yeah.
You know, he was not just, you know, somebody to just make you laugh and giggle and get all your hopes up, but he was always somebody that could get down to the punch. And I think he was wise in many ways, you know, because like all the little stuff like I'll be doing around the shop, like with me, where I'm in the water and sometimes I'm working on regs or compressor. When I'm working, I have like a one-track mind, so sometimes I don't see the obvious, you know. And he always will just rack in and go, how's it going, bro? And I'm like, it's not going too good. And you know, he'll just point out that slightest problem I've been trying to fix that for that half an hour I've been there, and I just couldn't see it, you know. I'm just so focused on fixing it, and you know, you just don't see the obvious, which is just hard. But he was one of those persons that always had that little insight, you know. So it was really great, I think, having him around, especially through this time, you know.
All of the volunteers between 18 to 22-year-old, I think, was the oldest one. Just everybody just sort of fell in love with his personality. It was just amazing. Come back.
Miss you,
We
Mark.
miss you. Love you.
Get you, Mark.
Yeah, that's it.
So we have a new Divemaster trainee working with us at the moment. Her name is Emily and she's from the UK. So welcome to Emily. Emily arrived here as a PADI advanced open water diver, and over the past few weeks we've been doing some amazing diving with Emily, including lionfish containment and hunting, deep diving, a bit of penetrating on wrecks, as well as some of her dive mastery stuff as well. She's been having a lot of fun and she's been an amazing sport, joining in with the team and really being part of what we're all about here at Deefer Diving, and we're hoping that she has fantastic success as she goes forward. You'll also have seen Emily featuring in some of our videos. And so we'd like to offer a massive Deefer welcome to Emily and anybody else who's thinking about doing their Divemaster program with us here in Carriacou.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. If you've liked this video, hit the like button.
Smash it.
And if you like us, subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Bye!